Hey everyone, welcome to Mental Hellness. I am so glad that you decided to click and join me for the conversation today. Today we are talking to Marlena Kaesler, who is one of those people. She's a kind soul that you meet every once in a while and you're just really happy that you did. Marlena is a talented makeup artist as well as seamstress, and she works in the very busy world of film and television. However, right now, Marlena is knocking it out of the park as a comedian and a producer. She has created her own backyard venue, comedy venue. She did this during a pandemic. Talk about commitment to your craft and to your community. The venue is called Love Shack, and she's doing shows all the time, several times a week. So she's really quite an inspiration, and I'm so glad that she decided to chat with me today about mental illness. So let's admit her. Hello?
Hi.
Hi. I like this. We're so punctual.
Oh man, for once in my life.
You are, how are you? I was just saying such nice things about you because I just think that you are such a warm and wonderful soul that you don't get to meet all the time. And so I'm just very happy that I have met you and that you've decided to chat with me. And I created this little chat show just to talk to people about where they are at mental illness wise, because I think there's a lot of opportunity to talk, thankfully, a little more seriously about mental health, but it's good also to just kind of talk reality about, some of the funny and awkward stuff. So,
Oh man,
right?
such a wealth of, oh man, so great. It's so great. I'm excited to have mental illness as a comedian. It's given me so much to work with.
Yeah. Well, so what's that like? So where has your headspace been during this pandemic? Now, I will say in the intro, I talked about, you did something pretty small, like create your own comedy venue in your backyard during a pandemic, just what you do, right?
Yeah.
That's the first thing that pops into my mind anyway, as to how I'm going to deal with it. So how's it been for you? Like, what the hell's going on?
I
What's
ask
happening?
myself that every minute. Yeah, I think we can actually say thank you to like a minor bout of bipolar mania for making such an elaborate comedy club. I was able to do a lot in a short amount of time. Thank you, mental illness.
Right.
So,
I was going to say that I have bipolar disorder too. And I think that sometimes I'm really happy for it. Like I really think that there are some gifts that come with having mental illness if you use it for good and not evil.
yes, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, so there was that at the beginning of the pandemic. Okay, so one thing about me is that for some reason, this happens. I end up in the newspaper about every 6 months about that for doing something really ridiculous. So wasn't too ridiculous. At the beginning of the pandemic, I ended up making about 2,000 masks for a home of people who have intellectual disabilities. So a lot of masks. So now I'm like
2000, did you say?
2,000.
By yourself?
Yeah, bipolar mania.
How, okay. I would really have liked to get a glimpse through your window at that and just how fast your hands were going.
Well, yeah, if you got a glimpse through my window, you probably couldn't see in because it would just be me and a pile of fabric and elastic and me just like, I think it was like the anxiety trigger. My bipolar mania isn't like, well, what am I talking about? I'm talking about how intense my bipolar mania is. It's like, I'm I'm still like, I don't think I'm like, I've become extremely productive in a way where my friends become jealous of me, but I'm like, guys, come on now.
Like, this isn't actually healthy.
No, it's not. It's
Like,
so not. And people are
I'm
like, oh
not
my,
actually in a healthy headspace, just
yeah,
so
I
you know.
know. It's like,
It's a cry for help.
it's totally a cry for help. And I think it was like, that was how I dealt with my anxiety towards the
Right.
pandemic, is that I was like, I massively produced
Yeah.
masks and I gave them away, and it was the thing. And now, but yeah, now I decided to start my own comedy club.
Well,
Uh,
just coming back to the masks for a second, just
yeah,
because I
yeah, of
remember
course.
when this all started, and I remember you getting flack for masks, and
Oh
then
yeah,
all like, right, and people are dicks, and you're getting flack for it, and then all of a sudden, oh, now all of a sudden,
yeah.
everybody's like, make masks, make masks. So how did you, even though you were in like a mania, because I know for me, I take a lot of stuff really personally. Like, you can take me down pretty easily. How did you persevere and kind of stick to your guns on that one? Was that just the
Well,
mania that kept you going?
it was both the mania and my horrid, stubborn behavior.
Right.
And it was like, once I decide to go through with something, like I really go through with it. Like there's not much that you can do to stop me. Yeah, I did get a lot of slack I was doing this. Oh man, I'm gonna sound like the biggest hipster ever, but like, oh my God, Lori, I like did
Do
this
it.
before anybody wanted mask, or like, actually I did, people, because there were articles at the very beginning that was like, don't wear a mask, that's detrimental. And like,
Yep.
I disagreed with it. I disagreed with that. It was like an article from the New York Times, and it was like, yeah, don't wear a mask. It's not, it's going to be detrimental. Masks will make you touch your face. No. So this was March the 13th was when we basically went on lockdown.
Yep.
The Monday after, oh no, actually the Sunday, that Sunday, I went out and got supplies and started making masks. It was literally 2 days after lockdown. People were not with the times, and what I was doing was actually extremely odd, because based on all the literature, all of recommendations at that point, they were like, definitely don't put on masks. And I was like, this is dumb. I definitely seemed extremely mentally ill to everyone outside. I actually got a string of apologies afterwards, being like, it was all coming out from people. They were like, I really, really thought you had lost it. I'm like, well, I did. I did, but I was more sane than you.
Right? Like, I mean, and because I remember this, looking at your posts back then, and I'm like, man, like, this woman is going for it. Like, and it doesn't matter. And you were clapping back at the naysayers. And, even then I'm thinking, I'm like, good for you. And I really thought, this is going to come around and people are going to see that this has been the right thing all along. And I think, we have mental illness to thank for that, because it can give
Yeah.
you incredible insight, right?
I think you're used to being like, okay, you're used to having weird opinions. I
Mhm.
mean, not all mentally ill people will have, but I'm a weirdo. I'm a strange person. And I'm used to having strange opinions and expressing them, and getting a lot of slack for it. I've been like that since I was a kid. So like,
So you're not just mentally ill, you're also odd.
yes. Yeah, those are two different things. I mean,
They
they are.
truly are. They truly are. Okay, go on. Sorry.
No, no, yeah, they really are. There are. That's the thing. That's the preconceived notion that like all mentally ill people are like, all of it is a spectrum, right? All of
Right.
it is always is a spectrum, and people fail to realize that. One thing I really hate about bipolar is that there's this preconceived notion that if you're bipolar, you're mean. And it's
Yes.
no. Do you
Not
know how
at
many
all.
right? Like I gave away like the thousands of masks. I'm a very nice person.
And you started a comedy venue called the Love Shack, not the
Yes,
Hate Shack, not the
yes.
Mean Shack.
It's about love. Yes.
I
So
totally hear that because I know there's so many preconceived notions about bipolar disorder that, you know, when you're living it, you kind of laugh at it because I know for me, I always hear that, you know, that you're either really, really happy or really mad. Nobody goes to the depression side of it because I
yeah,
get pretty severe bipolar depression. That's probably where I live more than mania, but it's more people think it's a light switch of, hey, you're like you're super awesome and fun to be around and a great partier and all of that kind of cool stuff, and then you're mean and nobody knows when it's going to happen.
right. It's
Right.
like that's not. It's not. No, that's not what happens. You know what? That might be what might happen for maybe one or two. It's actually very rare that I've heard of anything like that happening. Like
I know.
there are signs of both depression and mania coming on. There are
Yeah.
signs. You definitely. It's not something that's instantaneous. And but yeah, that's what there's been, there was a, yeah, there was like a coworker that was like, well, she's really mean, she's hard to work with. They weren't talking about me, but they're like, yeah, she's really mean, she's hard.
That you're aware of.
Yeah, that I'm aware of, but yeah, she's really mean, she's hard to work with. Yeah, oh yeah, I think she's bipolar, she's got to be bipolar. And I'm like, guys, no, that's not. It's
It's
not.
so true. It's so true.
Yeah,
Like, and I really do think there's nothing further from the truth. And I think that when you are dealing with a mood disorder, because that's really what it is, and I'm not sure that people truly understand that it's unstable moods. It's a mood disorder.
yeah,
And that there is, like you said, there is this, not only is there a spectrum or a continuum, but there are signs. I know for me, and maybe you're the same, there's certain little signs that, oh, it's coming, it's like a train coming, and I feel that we're going to go on this, we're going to go a bit on this
yeah,
uptake. And conversely, it's a different train coming from a different direction going downhill. And it can take, a few days for that to kind of take hold. And I don't know about you, but I've gotten really, really good at faking it too. Like I can pretend I'm not depressed.
yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And it's harder to pretend you're not manic, but you can, I think when you're used to it, you can sort of curb it. And like you use it for good. You're actually taking
Yeah.
that energy.
Yeah.
And doing, now, have you been in a manic state, do you think, for the whole pandemic, or is this just productive Marlena?
Here's the thing, okay? Because I have some very intense ADHD on top of being
Perfect.
bipolar, right?
Yeah.
So with ADHD, we've got something that's called hyperfocus, okay, which sounds very similar to being manic. And there's sometimes I talk to a therapist and even she's confused. I'm like, I don't know if I'm manic or if I'm hyperfocused. Hyperfocus is when somebody who has ADHD, a lot of people think like that we don't have attention for
Right.
certain things, but the fact is it's just an imbalance in our focus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we get hyper focused, and in that we get so focused on a certain task that it is actually, sometimes I get a headache if I'm in hyper focus and somebody tries to take me away from what I'm doing. I'm that focused.
Right.
So
So it can make you physically uncomfortable.
yeah, it physically makes me uncomfortable. A lot of people don't know that, and so they look
Wow.
at people with ADHD, and there's so many preconceived notions. Like a lot of people, one time I was talking about having ADHD with my friend who had ADHD. We were walking, it wasn't long ago, a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, yeah, and your ADHD is like different than mine,
Mm-hmm.
because it comes with different symptoms, right?
Yep.
And this woman on a bike literally drives by us. She slows down the bike, and she goes, yeah, but like, doesn't everyone have ADHD? What?
Well, thanks for weighing in.
Thank you for weighing in. Thank you for slowing your bike down do you have no, I guess she didn't have a life because it's the pandemic. Maybe she really wanted a conversation.
Maybe people are craving this stuff, right? But
Totally.
I totally think that this is why, like, having a conversation like this, people are craving it, because I think everybody is managing, some are mismanaging, okay, dealing with some kind of mental health issue, whether there's a diagnosis or not. I mean,
Mhm.
People are dealing with all of this, this kind of, this shit. And people who ordinarily would be, you know, really quiet about this stuff, I think are starting to crave, because they're stepping out a little bit and wanting some kind of reassurance that, okay, I'm not crazy. You know,
Mhm.
lots of people deal with this stuff. I too have ADHD, and I've had so many people tell me that they wish they had it because they could get so much done.
Oh boy.
And I'm like,
Yeah, that's the thing. Is that yes,
you
yes, you
don't
get a
wish
lot
you had
done.
it. You
You
don't
don't.
wish.
No, you don't. You sure get a bunch of stuff done, but then in a couple weeks you can't get out of bed,
There's that.
and you have an existential crisis, and But sure, you sewed a lot of masks.
You did. You opened a comedy club. So
Yeah.
tell me, like, okay, I have to know, and whether you did this in a manic state or just a Marlena state of mind, a Marlena state of mind. So
Yeah.
what were you doing? Like having coffee one morning and thinking, like, and you know what it reminds me of? If you ever watch The Little Rascals, and the Little Rascals always put on a backyard show. They
Oh
always,
my
like,
God. Yeah.
Banky and the gang always put on their own little backyard shows. And as soon as I saw you doing this, I'm like, she's the Little Rascals. That's exactly what she's
Yeah. Yeah.
like.
All of them.
So what are you doing? You're drinking coffee, you're drinking tea, and what? What happens?
Yeah, it's I have a huge backyard, and it was a pile of garbage, no word of a lie.
Okay.
And it was dark. There's no lights in the backyard. So I put up some string lights. I got some string lights, and I had put out a couple of candles, and I was like, this looks really nice. And I started off with like a couple, and then I was like, I really need to socialize. And I'm like, I don't feel comfortable going out in public, because like I don't know who's been there, I don't know how many people. But if I in my backyard, I feel comfortable. I know that I'm going to distance people properly. I know that it's going to be a lot safer. Obviously there's any risk at all right now of like going out, but like I'll be a lot safer if I do it on my own terms.
Right.
So it started off with a couple of get-togethers of like, like 4 people, and then I was like, then it just one by one added, well, what if I paint the shed? And what if I painted like a fuchsia? That would be fun. And the thing is that like, because the landlords treated the properly, they're busy, they're good landlords, but because it was in such a state, I could get away with doing a lot, because it was actually improving
Yeah, you're
the
cleaning up.
property. I was cleaning up.
Right.
So, and then I just started reaching out to the comedy community, because I knew that like a lot of people were hurting for stage time. And like, basically this is, for a lot of us, this is the anchor that keeps our mental health in check.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so to deny somebody that for such a long time. So I knew there were a lot of people hurting out there. And I was like, this is something that's a need. It's an absolute need.
Mm-hmm.
So I started reaching out to the comedy community and like having, safe, I'm not like advertising it a lot. Like I'm keeping it pretty low-ish key,
Right.
so that it doesn't get too big, so that we can keep the numbers kind of low, so we can continue to operate safely. But it just started off with one thing of string lights, and then it was just like, then I kept going on.
Well, as you know, I've been there, and it's
Yes.
like walking into some sort of weird wonderland dream. It's just a little bit of everything, and it's so whimsical, and and it was so cool to be there as an audience member, not, being able to go out over the last several months. It was the first evening out for Paul, my
No.
husband, and I.
Oh, wow.
And we just got such a kick out of, hey, look at what we're doing. This is awesome. And we felt completely safe. We enjoyed ourselves immensely. And you're doing such a service for, it seems like such a simple idea, and you poured yourself into it. And now you've got this beautiful venue, and people are really responding, aren't they?
They really are. They're really responding. It just feels like the hugest gift. I actually ended up in the hospital creating that place. I don't know if you know that.
No, what?
Yeah, I was in the hospital. I think I can blame this on mania.
Okay.
That I was so focused. Wanted to put the space together so as fast as I could,
Okay.
because I was isolating at my parents' place, came back to Toronto, and I was like, as soon as I decided to get this, I was like, this is going to be a comedy venue. I was like trying to work as fast as I could. So when I was gathering things, I don't have a car, so I was having to walk, and it was like I had to do it on a very limited budget, and I overdid it. I didn't drink enough water. I overdid it.
And during that heat, during the heat,
During
stretch of
that
heat, yeah.
heat, and I ended up being admitted to the hospital for 3 days. So
Oh
that
my
was
God.
a lot of mental health medication, and I take a lot of mental health medication.
Preach.
Can be dehydrating more
Yeah.
so you have to be even, and can make you more sensitive to the sun.
Yes, that's a big one for sure. And I
Yeah,
don't think people realize that
I
too.
don't realize that.
You
A
have to
lot
be
of
super
medication.
careful. Yep.
Yeah, you have to be super careful in the sun. That was a hard lesson for me, the side effects of medication. They don't tell you that. It makes you, I guess, photosensitive,
Yes.
sensitive to the sunlight. So, and I'm fair already. So then to add that extra layer, I got very dehydrated, and I was very, very sick. So I was admitted to the hospital for 3 days. But yeah. So
And that's like, let's face it, that's one of the downsides of being hyper focused, is that
yes,
you really and truly do stop paying attention to anything
you do.
else around you,
You
right?
literally do. Yeah.
And did that sort of jar you? Like, when you were sitting in the hospital, did you kind of like do the little head shake and say, okay, this is what's happening to me? Or did you get well and then go back to being hyper focused?
I got well, and then went back to being hyper focused. But now I am being a lot more gentle on myself.
You're asking for more help too,
I am asking for
right?
more help. Yeah, I
Which
am.
which I think, is totally appropriate and should be done, because so many people are benefiting, because not every place is opening up, and even those places that are opening up, it's limited capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're going to be offering this up, the Love Shack, to people, then then people need to kind of step up a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm absolutely, I'm so grateful and so overwhelmed with the help that I've gotten from people that I'm newly meeting.
Mm-hmm.
It just means so much to me to have a creative project affect people in a
Yeah.
positive way. Like it just means so much to me. I'm really, really grateful. Yeah.
You really are doing, like, the more you talk about it, and watching your posts and going to a show, is that you are providing a mental health service.
It was for myself, both for myself and others. This is
but you are.
definitely it makes me, this makes me feel like I have purpose. When I
Yep.
felt like I had lost most of my purpose during the pandemic,
Yep.
I felt like I've gotten it back through this project. And it's really, it means a lot to me, because it is literally the first time some people are venturing out of their homes
Mm-hmm.
for months, and they're going, and it's been described as, someone said it's like Pee-wee's Playhouse in a good way. I don't
Yeah.
know, could it ever be in a bad way, Pee-wee's
No, it couldn't.
Playhouse?
It totally couldn't. But that's, yeah, that's another great way to put it. You just sort of, when we walked in, it's like you completely lose any thought that you're in Toronto, that you're in, a busy area, that you're just plunked down in this safe little haven, and the lights, and then the comedy, and that just how happy people are to be there. Like, that's what I noticed just looking around at people that were there. And even if there were moments of no laughs, there was always smiles. Like, people were just smiling, like, I'm out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great. It's great. Yeah, and comics, the comics are really getting into it, and I've been able to book pretty big acts because they're wanting some practice time. So it's great. I feel like I'm playing, but I feel like I do feel like a little rascal in that, like, when you're like playing store, I feel like I'm playing comedy club.
Right. I picture you having like an admission sign, but with like backwards letters and stuff.
Exactly what it is. Yeah.
Something like that.
Totally. Yeah, that's why a lot of the shows, like
you should be selling lemonade.
I should actually. You're gonna laugh. My uncle just sent me a lemonade stand tent.
That's
definitely
awesome.
Putting it up for sure.
You have to.
I'm
Totally
going to.
But,
Yeah.
No, it's just amazing, and I think it is an example of understanding, because it sounds to me like you have a really good understanding of your illness. And when you do have that understanding, and I'm not sure about you, but I'm trying to get to, and maybe I'm not all the way there yet, even though it's been 30 odd years, it's getting to that place of acceptance where you realize, okay, this is who I am. This is what I have to contend with. I'm going to stop pushing the rock uphill. I'm just going to kind of put it beside me and just accept that this is who I am. And there are certain things that I need to do in order to stay well. And some of those things, like what you're doing, can have a really positive impact.
It took a long time for me to get to this place, though. I have to tell you that being diagnosed with a mental illness was actually my worst fear. It was my worst fear. I was absolutely traumatized because, like, I had found out that I had a mental illness through going through psychosis, which is like one of these topics that nobody talks about. Nobody talks about psychosis. And yeah, I had psychosis, and yeah, that's when they're like, well, you have a mental illness. And now I know it's bipolar, but at first they were like, we don't know what kind of, but we know that if you had this, then you have a mental illness. And it took a while getting used to the side effects. One of the wonderfully hilarious side effects of my medication, it's like kind of annoying, is that I get up in the middle. So I take antipsychotics, which make you crave sugar. Yeah. And I try to keep myself in check during the day. But what happens is that I wake up in the middle of the night and I snack. I have no memory of it.
What do you see? You see the wrappers?
I will roll over, Lori, and I'll be like, did somebody have a freaking party? Like,
wow.
I didn't even know I had this in the house. How did I even find Oreos? Like, I have no recollection of it. And I'm like, during the day, I'm like eating like nuts and stuff, like being healthy. And I'm like, why am I not losing weight? I'm like, well, because clearly in the middle of the night, like.
that is crazy. Because that is, and it's so counterproductive to what you're trying to do, but it's right. I crave carbs and sugar, and for me this summer it's been all about the ice cream sandwiches. I have had box after box after box, and I'm pretty sure, and I live with two adult males, and I'm pretty sure it's me that's just going through them all, because I don't wake up in the middle of the night and do it, but I have come to think of it. found myself watching TV and raising something to my mouth and realizing, how did, what? Who put that there?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so I totally get that. I know. And I don't know about you, but I it shocks me when I take out because my antipsychotic I take at night because
Yes, mine too.
it has a good sleep property in it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. But I still feel weird and laugh to myself when it actually says on it antipsychotic. Like I just think, what?
Oh, and
What?
Lori, I'm single. I'm single.
Yeah, see, at least my
So,
husband married into this, but I
right.
know you don't want anyone going through your medicine chest.
No. Oh God, no. I keep all my medication in a tin box
Yes.
by my bed. I don't want anybody going through my medicine cabinet. It's like, of course, I'm like on a podcast talking about it. So,
Okay. Oh yeah, there's that. This is on YouTube.
that's fine. I'm fine. I'm like this for the greater good, but like,
Totally.
I'm a comedian. Like I'm gonna talk about this stuff eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it's like, and so I'm owning it now. I'm deciding to own it now. At least here's the thing. At least you know what you're getting into. I've already dealt with my stuff, okay?
Yeah.
I know what pills to take. I
Yep.
know what doctors to see, right?
Yep.
So if you date somebody who isn't taking the meds, you don't know, they might be on the meds soon. At least I'm on the meds now and you know what you're getting
True.
into. At
Yes.
least I've got the support systems in place. So maybe I'm a lot crazier than the girl that you're talking to who claims that she's not crazy but might be. You don't know.
I think you're less crazy. I think you're less crazy. And I think, it's jump in at the deep end and if you can swim in the deep end, then this has a chance. This could work. Right?
Totally.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, all right, I could keep on talking, but as we get close to the end here, what I want to know from you is what would be a Marlena-ism that you would leave people with, knowing what you know now about your own mental health, knowing what, just from your own experiences, what would you say to the people watching?
But I would say that every single person is on the spectrum of having some kind of mental health. Well, I don't even want to call it disordered. Mental health function
Issue?
different on a spectrum of different operations of your mental health, because I don't see some of them as being a disorder.
Right.
I see some of them as being an opportunity for being different. And you know what, in this world, for everybody's, why not? What's so wrong with having an opportunity for being different in the world and functioning differently in this world? And so I'm looking at it like that. I think the moment you see it like that, you're like, oh, well, you know what? It's not so bad. Like, it's not so bad. You take care of yourself. You know what you're getting into, and you try to function the best you can. And yeah.
I think that's an awesome, beautiful way to look at it. There's an opportunity to be different. And why can't we embrace that a little more? And that ties into what I was saying too about acceptance, right?
Yeah.
You can accept it, then maybe you can celebrate it.
Absolutely.
A little bit. Well, I celebrate you and I celebrate the Love Shack.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your mania.
Anytime.
All right. Take care, Marlena.
Thanks so much, Lori.
Bye. Oh, that was lovely, Marlena Kaesler. And honestly, she is so creative and so much fun. And as you can tell by just watching her. And if you do get the opportunity on Facebook to check out her many posts about the Love Shack, and if you have the opportunity to go to a show, I highly recommend it. It is a great evening out and you're supporting a really awesome community and the mental health of others. So it's win-win-win all across the board. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, be well.